morning. Today is Monday, June 2nd. Moving around pretty early today. Been up probably since around 5:30, 6 a.m. I'm a little bit sick, if you can't tell by my voice. The past couple of days, I've been really fighting this cold for real. I don't know what happened. I don't know how I got sick, but here I am. But I'm feeling a little bit better today. Had a pretty good back and bicep workout, which I'm very, very pleased with. I can't complain on that end, you feel me? So currently, I'm chilling out at Elizabeth Park. Just wanted to really get some fresh air, for real. Instead of just like being in the house. So, wanted to get out, get some fresh air. Once again, please excuse me, because I'm pretty sick. But I'm gonna be alright. Anywho, I was reading this book by Jordan Peterson. It's 12 Rules for Life. And there's something that kind of like, I ain't gonna say struck a chord, but like I just felt very, very interested in. So I want to talk about it. It's in the chapter, I think it's like chapter number 4. And the whole premise of the chapter is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who you are today. And also I think a part of that too is like, don't compare yourself to others. I think that's kind of a pretty cliche saying. It's like comparison is the thief of joy, and you really should compare yourself to others, because at the end of the day, you really don't know what someone is going through. And I used to think about this when I was younger. I mean, I'm still young now, but when I was like younger, and I used to see a guy with a girl, I'd be like, damn, like how do you get her? Like she looks so bad, and this dude looks so average. How do you get her? But something that kind of changed my perspective on that one specifically is like, I don't know where I got this from, but you don't know what he did to get her, and you don't know what he's doing to keep her. And I used to be like, damn. Like that really hit, because I'm like, you're absolutely right, man. He could have went through hell to get her. And he could be going through hell to keep her. Like, all I see is them walking together on the outside, but I got no idea what the ins and outs of their relationship is. But anyway, to go back to the 12 Rules of Life. Within the whole compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who you are today, there's a concept in there. And I feel like everyone has desires. Everyone wants something, in terms of their life, whether you want a better job, whether you want a girlfriend or a partner, whether you want a better apartment, whether you want more money. In the book, there was a concept of basically like, he was basically saying don't want any of those things. Like, there's nothing wrong with having an aim and having a desire and all that other stuff, but he was instead saying, imagine wanting whatever it is that would make your life better. Instead of wanting for something, let's say a job or a relationship that currently isn't really working for you. And I was like, damn, imagine wanting whatever it is that will make your life better. And it really did kind of make me think, because you also got to think is like, what is that? Like, what exactly is wanting what makes your life better? What exactly will make your life better? And I think everybody kind of has their own answer to this. I think me personally, like, wanting my life better will probably just be, continue to go to the gym, but like procrastinating less. That's something that I can do that would probably make my life better in the long term. And I don't really drink, but I do smoke, so it's like probably stop smoking, or at least smoke significantly less. That's probably something else that in the long term would make my life better. And he was saying another thing, what exactly is making your life better? And he was saying adopting responsibility, which I think is very hard to do, especially when you're young. And I can only speak for myself, but not that at times I don't want responsibility, because I understand as a man, that's the whole point. That's a huge premise of being a man, is you have to adopt responsibility and be responsible for, the people around you, or even for yourself. But that can be very hard for people, because if you adopt responsibility, you got to change the way you live your life. You can't just continue to live the life you're currently living. If you're responsible for something, that means you have to take care of it and make sure that it is okay, that it's sustainable, you know? Whether that responsibility is showing up to work on time, you got people relying on you to show up to work and to work your designated hours. And another thing he was saying is, in terms of wanting whatever it is that'll make your life better, you gotta actually, it can't be faked. Like, you actually gotta want to make your life better. Like, you gotta actively want it deep down inside and take the active steps. And it's different for everybody, but I appreciate Jordan Peterson because he kind of breaks it down to small steps. And like, the small steps is mainly like, listen, as of right now, your life isn't where you want it to be. And you are inadequate. To a certain extent, you are inadequate. There's a lot of things you want, but as a human, we are complex and we don't truly know what we want. We think we want something, but we really don't know what we want. But essentially, in terms of making your life better, instead of putting all this burden to, hey, I have to completely make a whole switch 360 in how I'm living my life from today and tomorrow, which a lot of people can't just like that. Like, go from like having a whole bunch of bad habits and then one day they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'm straight. No. He was saying starting small. So like, even if you do the little things, like, hey, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Yesterday, you didn't make your bed. But today, let's make your bed. Oh, okay, cool. I made my bed. Maybe, just maybe, I can bargain with myself. And after I make my bed, I'm gonna straighten my desk. And I might reward myself for that, even though it was something so small. But because I have never done this, let me reward myself for that. Kind of like a little positive reinforcement. And then the next day, you wake up and you make your bed again, and you might straighten your desk. And then after that, you might mess around and clean your carpet, vacuum your room. And you might not even make it through the whole room because you're not disciplined enough and you really don't want to be doing this, but you might have made it through half the room. But in all reality, half the room is better than none of the room. So okay, so you might, give yourself a little treat for that. And it's essentially just little steps each and every day. And those little steps each and every day add up to the point where you're completely a new person, where everything is completely different. It takes time to build that, and that's what I've noticed. But I think it's for the best. And I never really thought of, because I feel like, I want to make more money. And I want to have a job that's fulfilling. And I'm not too worried about having a girlfriend at this moment, but I want a girl and have a family and all this other stuff. But I guess instead of me having just that specific aim, maybe I should just aim at making my life better. And figuring out what exactly that is. And for me personally, it's probably smoking less, playing video games less, procrastinating a little bit less, and taking the necessary steps to finding a way to make money online. Or really just not necessarily make money online, but make money online, or just make money in other avenues. And each and every day is kind of like baby step it, baby walk it. I guess actionable steps for me would be smoking every other day, or smoking every 2 days, and finding maybe some type of reward system in which that if I do that, I reward myself. How would I reward myself? Maybe I could reward myself with a little bit extra time of video games, even though that's something I want to cut back on. You gotta work with yourself. Or it's being able to go outside, or maybe it's buying something, buying a little toy, buying a little gadget or something like that. And really finding a way to make my life better on a daily basis. And I think some of this too also has to do with reflection. So it's like, look at what I did yesterday. Do an audit of yesterday. And then when I wake up this morning, how can I make today better than yesterday? Well, I did this, and this yesterday. Maybe if I do this, and this today, that will probably put me in a better spot. That sounds like a better day than yesterday. And then once I do that today, move on to the next day. And then I look at, and it's just constantly reflecting on the day before and seeing how you can better yourself moving forward each and every day. And that's kind of that's how I interpreted what he was saying and what he was getting at. And another thing he said about, I guess, wanting your life to be better is, he said, having the aim of, I want my life to be better, now makes our mind start presenting us with new info to help with our aim. And, you know, the concept of like new things are just going to pop up when I have a different aim, it's hard for me to really wrap my head around it. Because I think how I think about it is, oh, okay, I have this aim, and now all of a sudden, like, all these opportunities are going to start popping up. And it's not as plain as that, but I guess what he's trying to get at is, because I'm now thinking differently, I'm probably going to see the same scenarios I'm going in from a different light, which will inevitably cause me to change the way I respond to that, which kind of leads to new opportunities and new things open up. Because, like, this is my aim, and I choose to respond to a certain situation like this, and I get the same results, you know, compared to now my aim being, hey, I want a better life, which a similar situation comes up that I always face, but because I want a better life, I'm now going to choose to respond to that same situation differently, which now leads to a different outcome, which inevitably leads to a different opportunity, which inevitably leads to my life being different and changing, and possibly for the better. So he might have a point. You know, he might be 100% right. And now, like, breaking it down and kind of talking out loud, which is why I like to do this, it makes sense, and I can see where he's coming from. And I actually would like to implement that. Wow, that was a pretty good breakdown. Pat on the back. And and I already kind of covered this, the whole start with small changes. He also was saying pay attention to yourself, which is something I'm really trying to do more and more often. Pay attention to yourself in terms of, what do you find that irks you? So what makes you happy? What makes you sad? What makes you angry? What makes you annoyed? What makes you feel inside like a different feeling compared to your baseline feeling? What evokes emotion out of you? And pay attention to yourself. Because I guess if you're doing something that is evoking negative emotion every single time you do it, maybe you should stop. You know, maybe you shouldn't do it. If you do something at the end of it, it evokes a positive emotion. And I guess you got to be careful with this, because like drugs evoke positive emotions, but you understand where I'm getting at. Maybe you should continue to do it. If after you do it, it makes you feel good, you know? I have a hard time reading sometimes, but after I read, I'm happy. So maybe I should keep reading, because at the end of it, I feel good. Sometimes after I smoke, I feel like a piece of crap. So maybe I shouldn't smoke anymore. Or maybe I should slow down on the amount I'm smoking. Because if I'm doing something and making me feel bad, why continue to do it? Logically, that makes no sense. And I know, like, easier said than done, and everybody has their own challenges and tribulations, but at the same time, logically, why do something that continues to hurt you? Why do something that continues to make you angry or feel bad about yourself or feel some type of shame inside? That's kind of stupid. It is stupid. Not kind of stupid. It is stupid. So it's like, yeah, pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to how things make you feel, how people make you feel, how certain situations make you feel. And there's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable, because sometimes uncomfortable leads to growth, but there are other forms of being uncomfortable where you're probably like, I shouldn't do this, or I shouldn't be here. It's like one of the two. And lastly, this is a question that you can ask yourself. What could I do that I would do to make my life better? What could I do that I would do to make my life better? That's a hard and a simple question. Because I feel like everybody knows what they could do that would make their life better. But typically that thing that they could do, they either don't want to do, typically because it's hard, or because it's difficult, or because it's uncomfortable. And you're going to have to sacrifice that in order to make your life better. And that's difficult to do, because everybody likes comfort. And everybody likes their habits, especially if their habits spike dopamine. But at the same time, you got to be willing to sacrifice in order to get the life that you want. You got to be willing to sacrifice in order to make your life better. And I guess that ties into what he said earlier was, you can't fake it. If you want your life to be better, you got to actively do it. Because other than that, there are going to be things that you want to change in your life that you could change, but you're going to choose not to. And it's going to lead you being in the same spot over and over and over again. And then what? Then you'll be in the same position that you were before. Then any aims or goals you probably won't hit or make. To a certain extent, you'll probably be miserable. If not now, then eventually. And before you know it, you'll be 35, 40 years old, wishing that you sacrificed when you were younger. Sacrificed when you were 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, whatever. What could I do that I would do to make my life better? And at the end of the day, only you can answer that question. Truthfully. But that's my rant for the day. I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. I love you, Brody. Keep your head up. Keep pushing. And make sure you implement these, Brody. Peace.